both in control against our Tosis debate and keep going back and forth.
That'll be easy.
It is Thursday, May 8th, and this is State of the Game. My name is JP McDaniel. Today on the show, we have the oldest friend of the show. That's not saying you're old, that's just a weird intro. Geoff iNcontroL Robinson, welcome. Welcome back. We've also got the esports. So let's actually discuss this, Rod. What is your title? Because I made one up for you because you said it doesn't exist. What's your title over at the GameSpot?
Didn't even know you were going to start the show so quickly. I am just esports editor.
The esports editor from GameSpot.com.
There are no others. I'm the only one.
So is it the editor at large?
Could you say the chief editor then?
Chief editor at large, yeah. That's what I am.
There you go.
Thank you, guys.
The chief editor at large.
Business cards will be out in the end of the week.
At GameSpot.com, Rod Slasher Breslau. And, of course, we've got the mind behind Shellcraft America, the owner of Team Axiom, the lovely Genna Bain, a.k.a. Intricacy. And I've got to ask, where did the handle come from? Because you don't hear it all that often unless you're on Reddit.
I'm a pretty difficult person, I suppose. So there are a lot of intricacies to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so it just kind of stuck.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's just jump straight into the show. Geoff, we're going to start with you and focus in kind of, I guess it's the hot news at the moment, all the EG news coming out. First of all, you guys have Suppy advancing to the round of 16 in WCS America, as well as Revival. And then IdrA eliminated in the round of 13 and...
Round of 13.
Round of 32, sorry. Round of 13 doesn't exist, of course.
That'd be pretty cool if it did, though.
That'd be a fucking weird format
Very
for a
specific.
tournament. That'd have to be a John Nelson tournament. That's what that would have to be. And catching, I guess the best way to put it is catching shit on Reddit. Like, what is how is EG responding to this internally? If you can kind of comment on that at all.
Sure. So basically, the way I'm going to approach this is I'm going to cover my bases first and say that this is a subject that I believe people should hear and we should discuss because it's obviously been very public. Greg is an extremely central figure in StarCraft 2, and it would be really weird of anyone at EG, including me, to be like, well, I'm not going to say anything about it. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, there's the flip side. To be completely candid, he's one of my best friends, and perhaps almost more important than that, he's also a coworker. So I'm not really going to get into the super deep things that I believe to be pretty private, and I'm not going to speak to like internal policy, but I will speak to what, well, not in hyper detail, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but I will speak to it obviously, and it's not going to be fluff. The very basic bottom line is that Greg, love him or hate him, has been a lightning rod of attention in StarCraft 2 since the actual very beginning of time. Like, a lot of people cite back to Brood War, but don't actually know this. Greg, in a game that everyone kind of agreed was perfect, was the same way. He got very mad. He got really freaking mad. He would know GG. He would say hilarious things like building carriers an excellent skill to have or something like that. You know, like blaming it on a unit that is like the only thing that Protoss could do in response to Mech Terran late game. Like really funny stuff like that. But we all kind of laughed it off because we were a small community and we knew each other. But moving forward to now, the game is definitely professionalized and grown to a place where you could say no GGs, you could say fuck you, those kind of things, and people will be like, oh, what a badass, you know, what a Grumpelstiltskin, and they'll laugh it off. But then there's other things that you can say that people won't laugh off because it's hitting too many people at two different stages of the game. If I'm a very casual fan and I'm drawn to Greg and I really like him, but then I read a comment that says, you're a fuck and I don't care about you and I just do this to get paid, you know, like, I read that and I'm like, holy crap, I don't like that at all. But if I know Greg on a deeper level and I'm a fan that's been around for years and years, I could probably look at that and be disappointed, but still come back. So that's why internally with EG, those kind of things are, well, I mean, that's not why, but that's part of the reason why those things are unacceptable and are being worked on. I know that in the past, like when Stefano said something really terrible, it was publicly announced what his punishment was, and I think that the punishment fit the crime in that case. I think in the past it's been made pretty obvious that, and Greg himself has said it as well, that he's apologized for like his comments to David Kim and other people. So like when these things do happen, a lot of times it's made public that it's not okay with us and that we're working against it. But when someone's having a really tough time and it kind of goes public, I can actually use myself as an example. It was like end of 2010 into 2011. I was actually pretty depressed and upset with my public image, and I got a lot of hate on Reddit. Pretty much anywhere I posted, I got hate, and a lot of it was justifiable because of me acting out and being upset at people publicly. And when that happened, I had to kind of rally within myself and change the way I conducted myself in the community as well. So I guess that's just kind of a long-winded way of saying that when something's going on with a person, it's more simple than just he gets fined and fuck him, we move on, or something like that, or he gets cut, fuck him, and we move on. We're kind of working internally, and it's been publicly made notice too that a while ago we got a sports psychologist for him. He's got friends all over the team. We're all talking to him. The management's friends with him. They're working with him. Behavior is unacceptable, but it's not like a slap on the wrist. He's had a lot of slaps on the wrist, and we're working towards trying to build a better person with him too. It's not like this is against his will. He knows that he can't do these things, and he's working on it too. Sometimes he doesn't understand the magnitude of what he's saying, and he's like stands by it and says, "No, I don't like this game, and I don't like this such and such person." And we'll be like, "That may be true, but you have to work on not vocalizing it so candidly, if that makes sense." So you can call BS or yell at me or whatever you want, but and I can speak more to it. You just got to tell me.
Rod, you look like you have a question already prepared, so I'll let you.
Fuck me.
I was actually just gonna.
Wait a second.
Uh-oh.
Jesus. 1 sec.
Yes, Geoff.
Seriously, 1 second. It's like, I mean, what I was just told, Rod might trump anything we're about to say.
Should I
Weird
get the
time
Jeopardy
to go.
music?
Hang on, no, he's typing. All right, well, announcement just went live.
All right.
IdrA's been released from EG, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I'm glad that we can talk about this.
Yeah, I'll give you my pretty honest answer, and he says I can comment on it. I did not know it was going to be this severe. I did not. I'm captain of the squad, so I stay pretty involved with talking about these things, and I try to mediate, between management and players, and I try to understand what's going on. This happened without me knowing anything about it. So my immediate response is holy fuck, that sucks. Greg's like one of my best friends. He is one of the most famous StarCraft 2 players, and at one time he was one of the best foreigners. But when a guy publicly says over and over again he hates the game that he's playing, he hates his fan base, and he doesn't care, when that's kind of the image he's portraying forward, EG is working really hard to get away from the image of we don't care about the people that support us, and that we just do this for money, that kind of a thing. So when one guy's championing that unabashedly and just saying that is what it is, that's who I am, then I guess EG has to approach them, talk to them about it, and if they don't want to change, then perhaps sever them.
Well, I wasn't prepared for this to happen on the show. I think everyone is definitely a little bit shocked. Slasher, you want to ask your question now?
I didn't actually have a question. I was going to comment, but
Please
now
do.
that this has been done and we have, let's see, is there an official comment yet?
There
is.
Should be one on Team Liquid.
Yep,
Yes,
I'm looking at it
there
right
is.
now.
That's just so surprising to be coming out all of a sudden, I guess. I mean, I think some people maybe expected it, but we've seen things before, and it's not really seemed to have been such a big deal. But yeah, that's really sad news.
So one detail that I think is important to talk about, because when these kind of things happen, people go over it with a fine-tooth comb, which is very understandable. Greg recently moved to San Francisco, so it would be pretty amazing if this were to come out and people were like, well, I mean, this did come out and people were like, wow, what terrible timing. It is pretty bad timing, but I guess EG is going to help supplement his income, or his rent, rather, as like a transition thing, so that, because I don't know if people know this, and actually I was hoping to be able to talk about this on the show, but EG is actually extremely loyal to its players, former and present, and I think it's pretty cool that, because this is a disciplinary thing, right? It's not like Greg dropped below a certain ELO and we're like, well, sorry, man, you're too terrible now. It's not like that. It's more, we can't have this kind of behavior in action and be conducive with that. So EG is trying to help him out with the transition period there, and I think that's pretty cool.
All right, so I read the release, and it, it talks about esports and, professionalism in the industry and everything that goes around that. Not many details directly about Greg and things he's done, but I mean, everyone kind of has seen it. That's what we're talking about. To begin with, I have to say that this is probably the decision that needs to be made. And I say this because I remember talking about Greg and him getting the psychiatrist, I would think at least a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. I'm not sure if it's that long, but it feels like it has been. And he had great games versus Polt. Polt is one of the best players in the world right now. He took Life to 5 games, barely missed out on beating him in Dallas. Life goes on to win. Still had a really good showing at DreamHack. He is one of the best players. IdrA was leading the first game. The 2 games that he played, and then I didn't get to see the games against Ghost User, but he played good games in the group. It's not like it was a rollover or anything. So for him to make the comments that he made to his fans, on top of, having the psychiatrist the entire time and having gone through these ups and downs and already being at this point, not having a real good reason to do this to begin with, is just extremely disappointing, I think, from everyone's end, that he would go to these lengths. He could have by now, and should have by now, with the help that he's gotten, sucked it up and told his fans, something good. That he was like, all right, they were really tough losses, and I really didn't want to go out in the round of 32 for WCS North America, but I'm going to try to go for Season 2 and make it. Because this whole new, tournament that Blizzard has created is supposed to, all right, it didn't exactly help the North American players, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But assuming they fix it, it's meant to help them get into the finals more. I would only think he would be more enthusiastic about trying to push harder and make this work, especially with the new system. For everything to happen and then to make those comments, that was the last straw. So I see this as a good move by EG, and the one that needs to be made.
This is, at least for me, this is kind of a weird topic, because Greg is a pretty good friend of mine. I hope that this is kind of the kick in the ass, the realization of the world or something that perhaps he needs, but I don't know. I don't know what he does from here. He hates the game enough to where maybe he just stops playing and does something else. But I don't know how he can support himself in San Francisco and do all that with kind of an entry-level job. Like, where does he go from here? Because I don't know.
Well, Greg is actually, despite some of the things he said online, he's actually an extremely intelligent guy. He's saved up his money. He's totally fine. And he has always talked about going back to school. I mean, keep in mind, guys, EG was actually just telling me they're sorry that they didn't tell me a little bit earlier. It's actually it's happening actively right now. Like, they just talked to Greg 10 minutes ago. So they were very sorry that they couldn't tell me and prepare me before the show, because obviously it needs to be discussed. So everything you're hearing from me is like kind of off the cuff, and I'm sorry that I'm not my usual a little bit more prepared self. But I guess what I would say is, without having spoken to Greg has always played this game professionally. That's always been his job. So I have to imagine he keeps on going. He has said that he really doesn't like the game, and he does have a passion for like cooking. He's a very smart guy. He's always wanted to go back to school, so I don't know if that's now when he does that. To be honest, it's not for me to say. It's for Greg to, if he wants to talk about. So maybe someone does an interview with him or talk with him or something. But what I do want to speak out to is that it's really easy. I'm kind of a guy that believes you should, when you make your bed, you should lay in it. And I think Greg has said really toxic and bad things. So I understand when people kind of make those, like that video at the top of Reddit that was really mean, but it was kind of like taking a jab back at a guy that just said something really mean about the community. I get that. I guess what I would ask is that people take a step back for a second and also realize that while Greg has said really nasty stuff, he's also been a really integral part of the growth of this game and the game itself, and he's been an icon for a lot of people, and there's a lot of pressure on him. So at a time like this, like rather than reaching out with more venom and kicking him while he's down, I'd ask if you have it within yourself to try and be a little bit more compassionate, because this is a tough day for Greg and a lot of other people, and in no way, shape, or form should he be excused and off the hook for what the things he said. But I don't think people should go after him and try to really just. I mean, there's just some nasty shit going around, and it doesn't need to go to that level.
Genna, do you want to comment any more on it? I think we're all just a little bit kind of not confused, but shocked. Maybe is the best word.
Shocked would be probably the most appropriate word. I just don't think I really could have imagined a time in esports where Greg would not be with EG. You know, just so synonymous and so ingrained in us that, you know, it's almost like I can't imagine him ever being on any other team. I don't know why that is. It's just, you know, the cult of personality, I'm sure, will follow him wherever he goes, because he is, you know, definitely a character. You know, he brings his own flavor to the game for sure. But it's just, again, it's just so, I don't know. It's like being typecast as a child actor kind of thing. You know, I just really can't imagine EG without IdrA, and that's just so, it's so odd right now.
Well, it's been 5 minutes. I've taken it in. I think I'm doing okay, and now I'm ready for the fun part. Where is IdrA gonna go? And he now needs a new team.
Well,
While
hold
he
on,
was
Rod.
ingrained-
Rod, I'm going to interrupt. Jeff, do we need to take a moment? You want to?
Yeah, I'll need a minute or so.
Okay, let's just kind of put the show on break real quick. Like Jeff just had this news hit. I think everyone's kind of reacting to it, so we'll take a quick 1 or 2 minute break and then come back. I think that's best, Rod. Sorry to interrupt you, but we'll be right back, guys. More State of the Game coming up right after this. All right, guys. Sorry about that. We are back here. So, Rod, I believe I interrupted you when we cut to the quick break, so go ahead.
So now that I was saying, now that IdrA has been released from Evil Geniuses, I want to look at it from both sides. I think, the bigger side here is, where's IdrA going to go? There are a lot of teams out there still picking up players. I still think that he has pretty good market value, just based upon IdrA being IdrA, let alone everything else, so that he is worthy of being picked up. And I think the biggest problem now is exactly what he was posting about on Team Liquid just yesterday, the comments which preempted the release of from being the EG in the first place, is that it's not as much about him winning as it is just, being there and being who he is. And if he doesn't win, he's not going to get the good deal now with another team. Now that he no longer has the security of being on EG, look how long it took for Naniwa to find a team, and it's really just EG Team B, but not EG. But I don't know exactly how it works. Honestly, but it's still, same organization thing. It took him forever to get on a team. IdrA has a similar type of issues as Naniwa had or has on finding a team. I think it will be similar like that, and he needs to win games if he's going to want the best deal that he can be. The performances that he's had in the past year has, helped create kind of the monster that has made him. And I think the only way to get out of it is to really buckle down to practice and to try to get some good results.
I don't know. To speak on this subject, I've always found it kind of funny that people talk about Greg this way. Greg is actually, and I'm just going to speak completely candidly, he's like the top 2 or 3 most valuable players in all of StarCraft 2 in his current form. He actually is. When he streams, he gets more eyes than just about everybody else. When he makes a comment on something, anything at all, basically, it shoots to the top of Reddit. It's a lightning rod on Team Liquid. He gets interviewed by the top places. He is an attention mongrel. He actually holds more attention than anybody else, basically. Winning is, unfortunately, at this time, in terms of being famous, it's something that you do, and then you don't have to necessarily maintain in StarCraft 2 to be famous. I'm not going to say that he could just stream for the rest of his life and be the IdrA that he was. By no means is that what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that now that he's a free agent, he's going to get offers that are amazing, from personal sponsorships to teams, because when he joins that team, guess who the fuck they're talking about? Guess who the fuck is instantly on the map because of one player? That team. And that IdrA. And I would say that him being released from EG only actually compounds that fact and makes it even bigger. The next team Greg goes to is gonna be the team that is instantly a rival to EG purely because Greg was spurned or something like that. I'm always annoyed when people talk about Greg where they're like, oh, he's just a random GM American Zerg now. No, show some goddamn respect. He's got more Twitter followers than you do. He's got more Facebook fans than you do. He has the Team Liquid fan page is one of the biggest threads in all of Team Liquid history.
Yeah.
They actually talk in there, guys, just about him all the fucking time. When he had a birthday, they sent him a gift basket that was worth like $1,000, including all kinds of things personalized to him that they knew that he loved, because they'd like snipe his life and look over every aspect of it and take out the things they know he likes, and then that's all they think about. I don't like that people have this notion of Greg that he's this weird has-been. When he commentates, guess who's the best fucking commentator at that tournament? Him plus whoever he's with, because they love his analysis and they love everything he has to say. So yes, Greg has not been playing as good as he was, but even in his current terrible form, game number 1 against Polt, like you were citing, Rod, he actually gave him a run for his money, and if he wouldn't have GG'd the way he did, or lack thereof of a GG the way he did, we could be talking about a really good series. But of course, there's that mental hiccup that he has that got him out of there when he got in a situation he didn't like. But like you said, if he buckles down and works harder, he'll only build on what I'm talking about. But I just get annoyed when people talk about Greg like he's not literally one of the most valuable players in all of StarCraft.
I think that I don't really have anything to say to that. I agree wholeheartedly.
I think it's kind
Genna,
of difficult to
hey,
combat
Genna.
that.
As the team owner on the show tonight, I don't have any American players right now.
She has said that they won't recruit anyone but Koreans because they want to keep a unity in the house.
Unless IdrA decided to move to Korea. I
And
need
he is-
another cert for GSDL.
There you go.
There you go.
That didn't work out so well last time, but I guess we could say. I would just say, I think IdrA, I really do relate it, to Naniwa. Naniwa, after those two GSL back-to-back round of 8s, he really didn't play as well as in GSL. He didn't do so good when he came to DreamHack in the past year, and then he got on his new team Alliance, and he really pulled through in the clutch in the first event back in Sweden to make it all the way to the finals and to put on such a show. And Greg hasn't had that. And it took that long for Naniwa to find a team. I really do think it might be similarly as difficult for IdrA, even with his fan base and how much of a superstar of a personality that he has become. I will always think that winning is the most important to the fans when it really comes down to their legacy and respect as a player, throughout history.
I think it comes down to what Greg wants to do. If Greg wants to start soliciting personal sponsorships, he'll have them next week. He's getting offers tonight. Okay, like that's actually the nature of the beast. But as far as him being on a team, it really comes down to what he wants to do. Like if you're looking at Greg and you're saying, I'm going to pay him. I'm not going to say his salary, but I'm going to ballpark it. Okay, let's say he's going to be asking $4,000 or $5,000, maybe $6,000 a month. Who's going to pay him that to just sit at home and stream? And probably nobody. Probably nobody has that money. But if Greg came to them and said, I'm going to work my ass off, I'm going to give you time in Korea if you're Acer or Axiom, I will do that for you. If you are such and such team, I'm going to promise you, a salary based on tournament achievements. Then I guarantee you he'll have a team ASAPly. I think I think people will be very quick to overlook the dumb things he said, as they have for the last 10 years, Rod. Greg said a lot of dumb shit over 10 years. We have those numbers to go back on. This is not the first time Greg has said something dumb that the community has gotten upset about. In fact, this might actually be the grand prize number 100. It might be number 100 where he won. Hey, you're off EG. Congrats. And it's like, oh, thanks, guys. I want to dedicate the first 99 dumb things I said to my anger. Who knows? But I guess what I would say is that if you're going to take the bet that perhaps his attitude means he's like a Naniwa that can't get on a team, I would easily give you 2-to-1 odds against that.
I think what's probably best for Greg, and I've kind of thought this for a while, is take a break. Take a week, take 2 days. Don't touch StarCraft. Don't touch esports. Just get away from it. Get away from everything. Because here's a guy, he played Brood War, obviously in Korea for so long, trained so hard for that, and then instantly made the transition to StarCraft 2 and started on that. He's been playing it since the first day of the beta, nonstop. It's Geoff, you can answer this. Has he taken any breaks? Just cold turkey quit?
Greg doesn't do breaks. He's only
man.
played StarCraft. His hobbies, guys, are he reads books. He enjoys, he has a girlfriend. They're really happy. He plays 2 games of League of Legends every other day with her to spend some time with her. And that's it. And then he likes to cook. He really likes to cook. For a long time, we've talked to him about trying to get more hobbies and find other games that he likes. And he liked golf. He did that for a summer, but that's about it.
Well,
so him taking a break, while I don't disagree with you, because I do think anytime someone gets so frustrated they start kind of lashing out like that, I think they should take a breather.
mm-hmm.
I don't know that he's capable, but then also there's actually the weight of if he does want to continue with StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 has a very short memory. If you go away for a month, there's no guarantee you'll come back to even half the power you were. And I'm not talking about playability. I'm talking about relevance.
Mm. Well, I don't know if there's much else to say. I think it will definitely have statements and probably interviews with Greg coming out in the week or weeks to come. I think the news... I'm still kind of in this weird moment where I actually don't know what to say about it. I don't know. I don't know what a world looks like where Greg doesn't wear an EG jersey at an event. That is a weird place for me. So Slasher and Genna, if you guys have any final thoughts on it, feel free to jump in. But I'm all for moving on.
I think I'm just mostly in shock more
Yeah.
than anything else. I don't really know how to feel about this. On one hand, I understand why EG made the decision that they did, but again, I can't see an EG without IdrA. It just doesn't
It's a little weird.
seem, yeah.
And it might be that the majority of us on the show, maybe aside from Rod, are good friends with Greg, so it's hard for us to kind of remove the bias of that from any statements that we make right now. At least for me, it is. So that's why I'm not really saying too much.
Hey, me and Greg are cool. We
Okay.
like each
No,
other.
I was
like
just
him.
giving you
I
that
think we're
chance.
Good. I think we're good. I think we're boys. I feel like we've had some good times together the past few years, and we've had our differences.
There you go. There you go. Any final thoughts on the topic?
No, I'm on the hunt. See what might happen very quickly now that he's a free agent.
Okay. Well, we
Feels
will.
like a pretty good opportunity for some journalism.
Let's fucking jump to that.
No.
And give Rod a little bit of a hard time because we
don't
love
want
doing that
to.
in the world of
Why?
esports.
It's not important. It really isn't. I'm totally serious.
Totally serious? All right. Well, I'll just go check out the Esports Heaven. It's actually a pretty good show. I'm going to be on there in about 2 weeks. I think DJ Wheat's going to be on there. Maybe I'm just spoiling their entire announcement of the guest list, so that's kind of fucked up. But Slasher, you were on there yesterday with Thorin. And if you guys are looking for like conversation about journalism and esports, it was definitely a good one. Maybe a little bit tough on Slasher, maybe somewhat of an ambush, but Rod, I think you held your own there. I think you did pretty good.
I'm used to it. I'm pretty good at that.
It was fine. I think what was funny about it for me, and if you guys are wondering what we're talking about, Slasher himself actually tweeted the link to the video. It's now made into YouTube, I believe. But it's Thorin, Richard Lewis, and Slasher talking about journalism. And I think one of the things I took away the most from it was when you have 2 Brits out of 3 guests on a show, it becomes so hackneyed. Oh my God, Thorin and Richard Lewis talking at the same time, like, "Oi, mate, hey, if he's gonna do that, it's like, oh, get blood out of it." And then Slasher's like, "Well, I don't know if we should say that. I don't know." It was funny, but
it was quite
Richard
good.
Lewis tickles me pink. I love that guy.
He's a good guy.
He's very old school journalist, old school esports journalist, I should say, which means he's been around for like 10 years. So
Yeah.
it's a good show to watch, but it's not as bad as Rod leads on. He did not get ambushed that bad. I don't.
Well, I'm the
think.
one that said ambush, so
I thought it was pretty fair.
I thought it was a great show, but I really don't want to talk about esports journalism anymore because it's not even.
it is kind of
Not
a dead horse that we keep bringing up in this industry.
I don't care. I'm done. I really don't want to do it anymore, so it doesn't matter. And nothing that I said on the show that really matters is what was talked about anyway, like embargoes and press releases. We didn't even talk about like the real thing. So no more. You know what we're going to talk about? The other damn thing, WCSNA, is that if Huck doesn't win tonight, and he's going to play in a little bit, Scarlet and Suppy, the only 2 North Americans, will be playing the WCS North America in New York City in 2 weeks.
So we've got 1 Australian, 1 European, 2 North Americans, and 10 Koreans already qualified through the round of 16. 2 more make it in. Huck is in there. Crank is actually in there as well. I would think that he's a pretty good, and Geoff, you can probably correct me, and I'm sure Genna has her own thoughts about this as well, but I would think Crank makes it out of that group, at least in
He's
the
got
first or second
superb
place.
PvP. I think that's where Huck's most dangerous is PvP. But Crank, actually in the NA qualifier, beat Max Said 2-0 pretty handily, and he beat Top, who were 2 of the better Protosses in those qualifiers. His PvP, and I'm a victim of his PvP too. I can tell you firsthand, it's really good. So I think he should be okay.
The other player, Sin's actually already 1-0 over Kapach. So he's definitely got to win. So I guess Huck and Crank just started. Is that? I know, Genna, you're watching it on another monitor. Not to call you out,
Yeah.
but have
No,
they
I
gotten in the
am.
game yet?
Yeah. They
Okay.
should be already underway. I was just talking to Huck a few minutes ago about the whole IdrA situation, so
Sure.
and to tell him good luck before the game. But yeah, so it should be kind of interesting. I mean, Huck can definitely win versus Crank. Huck is amazing at PvP. Crank he's been having more luck with PvP since Heart of the Swarm versus Wings of Liberty. I mean, his Wings of Liberty PvP was okay, but you could definitely tell it was never his favorite. He just felt that it was just too gimmicky. Now he seems to be enjoying it a lot more. So we'll just kind of see how it goes. I'm hoping he makes it out of his group, but as long as he plays the best that he can, then yeah, I'm happy.
Geoff, who makes it out of that group? Just a quick call.
I mean,
and
I got to tell you, like,
keep in mind, like, Huck might have to. Like, is Huck affected by the news at all? Do you think is that going to affect his play?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. It's Sen, Crank, and Huck, and then who's the fourth?
Capoch.
Oh,
However you
Capoch.
say his name.
Capoch will take last. I think it really comes down to Huck or Sen for second. And I mean, the thing about Huck is that his most dangerous matchup for me is PvP, and I feel like he could beat absolutely anybody, even someone who on paper is better, like Crank. But the thing is that a lot of times because they're better, that's why Huck wins, because he does strategies that like the better player looks at and would be like, this shouldn't fucking work. This shouldn't work in 1,000 years. And Huck's like, been practicing it for months. So then he just like rolls over them. So if he gets Crank, that'll be interesting. But Huck's weakest matchup, in my opinion, is PvZ, and Sen is a monster. But also a bit of an unknown. Like, he trains on Korea, but then he plays in the Taiwan League, so he plays a little bit even off the radar. Like, he doesn't have a lot of tournament games out there where we say, remember back at MLG when Sen was doing this? No. We didn't see much. So who knows what form Sen is in. But Capoch, I got a sick prediction for you guys out there. He is not a prediction, more of like a revelation, I guess. He's going to play at least 4 games, and he will expand twice. If he plays more than 4 games, the number stays the same. There you go.
There you go.
This show has a really somber feeling, guys. We got to pick it up a little bit. It's really sad.
Well, you know what? You know, it's going to make it even
My
more
whole shtick
somber.
is sometimes I say funny stuff, but every time I've said something funny, everyone's just like, yeah, fuck you, in control.
I don't know if this will make you more somber, Geoff, or not. But Sen still got third at the World Championships last year and just got to beat down everyone without him being on the radar. I expect the
Sen's always on the radar.
now.
Rod. I think Sen's always on the radar.
When I meant radar, what I mean is like in terms of this is how he's playing now. You know what I mean? Like style-wise.
So even though I haven't seen him as much lately as I did before the World Championships, and if he got third then, and we didn't know anything about him then, I can't see it being any different now. So I think Sen's actually going to make it through the group, and it's going to come down to Huck and Crank in the end. And, you know, I don't know if they're both playing on the American server from Korea, which is pretty funny. If the MLG rules are right.
That might be required, to be honest. They might just have to.
Since we have
MLG rules are right.
out against that. Is it still going, Genna? They're forced to?
Yeah, I believe so.
Ladies
I
and
can
gentlemen.
ask and check.
All right. Even if I'm like overrunning the gun right now or whatever that saying is because I just butchered it. Let's just say this right now, ladies and gentlemen. If your qualifier's on one server, the way that should be conducted is that is your home server. So if I'm an American player playing a Korean, guess what? It's on the American server. But if I'm a Korean playing a Korean on the American qualifier, there is no reason on planet Earth for why that game shouldn't be played on the Korean server. But let's do a quick FAQ. What if I don't have a Korean account? Yes, you do. It's globalized. We can all go to the Korean server right now. But the ping is bad. For you as a commentator and observer, maybe it's a little bit bad. But guess what? For the 2 players playing the meaningful match that could determine and define their very career, it's better ping. Do we care about quality of games? You better fucking care about the quality of games. Should it be played on the Korean server? And then I just slap you. Yes, of course it should be played on the Korean server. So it was really hard for me to listen to the tweets from some of the MLG guys. Like, I'm going to call out Adam a little bit. He was like, brah, it's a North American qualifier. Obviously, it's going to be played on the North American fucking server, brah. And I looked at that and I read it, and I was like, Adam, Christ on a stick, you don't understand what you're saying right now. Like, yeah, it's the North American qualifier, but there's no reason 2 Koreans shouldn't play there. And I would love to have like heard a rebuttal on that, but of course Twitter's terrible for debates. But that should be it, guys. That should be it. Unless Sundance calls in right now and says, actually, I just got off the phone with Mike Morheim, and we are supposed to play on the North American server because... And then he gives some answer that nobody has. He has to fill in that blank.
Sundance, I'll be waiting for that call
That
if you're
phone
watching.
I really love how MLG Adam obviously sounds like Owen Wilson, by the way, Geoff. Thank you for that. That was excellent.
Time he speaks, all I hear. It's that or like,
Yeah.
he's from Ohio, so I hear that too. He's like,
I'm from Ohio.
you're from Ohio? You've done a
Yeah.
good job to put your past behind you. I appreciate that. Adam still
Thank
lives there,
you.
though.
Adam does.
So Genna, as a team owner, and your player is playing in qualifier right now, how angered and frustrated are you? Level 1 to 10. Is this something that you would agree with Geoff in and go in that needs to be changed?
Well, again, I'm not entirely sure. I'm still waiting back on reports as to which server they are playing on, but I would be under the impression that as long as both players agree to it, the game should be able to be played on the Korean server.
Yes.
They can say something like, oh, well, the people who are spectating it need to have like the least amount of lag as possible. So, we're going to play it on NA because the specs are here and the admins are here. I don't care. If you want good games, if you want the state of play to actually be very high, you want the quality to be great, let them play where they're closest, where they have the least amount of ping. I mean, unless you want people A-moving all over the map, unless you want void rays every single time, then, let them play on Korean server.
Genna,
No big deal.
no fluff. Did they actually tell you anything like observers might get a little bit of lag?
No. I just remember hearing that from like other tournaments who insisted that games were played like on EU server, for example.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that is the most BS excuse ever.
And I agree with you 1,000%. I guess if there's any kind of thing to be added to my little rant, it's that both players have to agree. But if they're both Korean, they're probably going to agree. But like I said, if one's an American and one's a Korean, it's unfair to the Korean, but guess what? That's why they're playing the North American qualifiers, is they felt like they had some advantage one place, and now the American player has an advantage elsewhere. So I do agree with that aspect of it. That's where we get a little bit of the America fuck yeah feeling, but I don't like two Koreans having their game made much more random and worse because people don't understand how it works, like the rules. Not even the rules, excuse me, but the like logistics, I guess. You know what I mean? It should always be about the quality of the games first. It really should. That's what competition should be about.
And
I just found out that they are playing on North American. Some people are saying that Huck is back in America. Is he?
Yeah, he's at the lair.
Okay, well then that would be why.
Yep.
Oh, so then Huck does have an advantage.
There
He
you go.
should use it, and he needs to qualify right now.
well,
Good.
I don't know if needs is the best word. The EG's doing pretty good in the round of 16, Rod.
He just means for America.
This is true.
He's trying
This
to make
is
fun
the
of North
North
America.
American qual.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
do we forget?
God.
Okay, now talking about the more macro issue. Now that we all predicted this would happen, but it's actually happened, and in New York City, we may very well have top 8, all Korea. Was there need to try to fix something for season 2 or 3 or whenever to make this region locked?
They have said, and I'm going to tell you this. This is what I've heard, Rod. It's not what I agree with. They have said it's not about finding a national champion. It's not about that. It's about crowning the best player in the world. But before I let that pretend to be my voice, I think that's shitty. That then is like, okay, if that's your goal, then why are we having a North American, European, and Korean qualifier? Like, why would you even add a regionalistic component to it if your only end goal is to find out who's the best player in the world? Because that's really confusing. And then they gave it the same name as the tournament the year before, where it was about finding the best player in each country, right? And then crowning one player nationalistically as a champion. So it's weird when they take the WCS, change it and its directive, keep the same name, and then they're like, why are you guys confused? What are you talking about?
It's very true. I don't know.
Genna?
Let's see.
And JP, I mean, come on. This is not good. This cannot be
Yeah,
what they
but
intended.
It's not good, but it's also been talked about for the past 3.5 weeks. So
no, but it was all impending that this would happen, and now we're actually in motion with the groups are over, and we have this set of players. Europe does not have this problem. 13 of the 16 players that qualified were European. Of course, much less Europeans went into the qualifier
Sure.
to begin with, which is probably a big reason. And Feast told me today that he still thinks the European players are better than North American players, which, Geoff, I'm sure you could have a whole lot of fun with that. Feast told me that he still thinks the European players right now are better than the North American.
Yeah, who would disagree with that?
So it's not just the amount of Korean players that are in the qualifier. It's
Well,
just,
I mean, I don't like people tried to make that a thing. I think in 2011 it was like a really hot button topic to talk about which server was better and which had better players. But right now, Koreans playing to Europe have a worse ping. But then MC got beat by European players because guess what? European players are also good enough to beat a player as good as MC. There are players like that in North America, but not as many. And I think more importantly, not as tournament ready. I think there's a lot of talent in North America, but unless you attended an MLG, you probably didn't play a tournament. Whereas in Europe, they have a lot of nationalistic tournaments, but then they also have a much more aged professional system that was fostering talent many years ago as opposed to North America, which was not.
Is that your answer, Rod? You content with that?
no, it can't go on like it is now. I mean,
What does that
it
mean?
doesn't matter, huh? No,
What?
I mean the way that it is set up now, Blizzard does have to change it. There is no way that Blizzard can stand and stay on this line that it's always going to be the best player in the world, and they just want to find that at the very end of BlizzCon and then have the region events be mixed with everyone. Because if we have 3 seasons of a potential top 8 all Korean and top 16 with 14 players not being from North America and or Europe, I can see fan interest continuing, to plummet. I think the Shoutcraft event really showed that it works, and they shouldn't worry about any other problem regarding the amount of people that'll watch. Or
What do you think about the direction,
times.
Rod, where they want to go offline? Like in a year is what they're saying, but maybe 2. Would you think that's still a problem if they make it offline? I mean, how many of those Koreans would move?
Yeah. That's kind of the other big question, Rod.
Yes, and I'm actually not to compare it to something like the League Championship Series. I actually don't know how the prize money split is between like the OGN, LOL, and then Riot, NA, and Europe. I would assume it's pretty similar, but you probably argue that the Korean players in League and maybe the Chinese players are better than the Europeans and North Americans there. We just haven't seen it as much because there hasn't been as many events. So if you want to argue the Koreans should get more prize money in this, then maybe you could work that out. I know Blizzard doesn't want to do that because they want everything to be equal, which may have led to the decision of doing this anyway. But all the Korean players should be forced to play in Korea. And I think that's just going to how it goes. It has to be, even though the competition level is like 100 times harder or whatever it is. I don't see any other way to really do this. They just have to modify the strongest scene in a way that's fair for all parties.
I have to say I agree with JP that you are actually talking about something that was literally discussed on every single show about a month and a half, 2 months ago. But to add my 2 cents to what you're bringing up right now, I would say that if you were to region lock everybody, you are squelching a lot of the talent in Korea because, again, like you said, it's so vicious. But what's more important about how vicious it is that those bottom guys have less to play for because the top's being dominated by the established KESPA trained or ESFI, or not ESFI, but ESF. I always make that mistake. Anyways,
Okay,
the really
everyone
established
does.
players at the very top. And then abroad, the North American qualifier is not going to have nearly as much attention because it'll be regarded as the worst. And the European one will get some attention, but not as much if you were to sprinkle some Koreans in there, which is what's happening right now. The storyline in North America is obviously very much so that not many Americans have qualified. But guess what? When Suppy won those 2 series against Axiom players from Terran Division, Hart and Ryung, just kidding, Jenna. You're actually the wrong person to try to jibe about this. Total biscuit here. It was like the frontline story everywhere. It was a big, big fucking deal. And while right now there's not a lot of guys doing that, that's the motivation. That's the direction. That's the storyline for WCS, not just North American players battling it out. Because I think that would be unfair to the overall scene. And I think that while I agree with you, Koreans are just going to go international and hog up a lot of those spots, and it'll be very Korean dominated. They're the best. If they're willing to travel and play locally, then who the fuck are we to be like, no, you're too good, get out. You took her jibs. You took her jibs. You know what I'm saying? So I'm okay with it if they're willing to commit. When it's online, I think it's a little bit of bullshit, but that's what we're dealing with because of WCS launching the way it did.
I think that's Rod. No more talk of this. I'm calling that. We're calling it. No more talk of WCS and its
JP,
its
don't you have an
failures.
opinion on this show?
What?
I know you host, but
I've
are
said
you
my
with
opinion
everything?
2 weeks in a row. WCS was rushed. It was a failure at the start, but as the weeks have gone on, people have quickly forgotten about that. The games have been great. I love the fact that we can have 3 different tournaments running 3 times during the day, like 5 times out of the week or 4 times out of the week. Like, that's awesome. It was rushed. That's the bottom line. Like, I think that's the buzz quote to come out of almost everyone's mouth that has something to say on the topic. So that's my opinion, Rod. Is that good? Is it sufficient?
that's fine for me.
Okay. Let's talk. By the way, who just won? Jen, I know you're watching. Who won game 1? Crank.
Crank won the first game.
Okay. Crank won. We'll keep up to date with that as it goes on because it is happening right now. WCS EU wrapped up its final group today in the round of 32 with Feast actually taking the group and actually beating MMA 2-1 in the opening series of that group. Mana and Sort of are the 2 players that will drop down. Feast and MMA, the 2 players that will advance on. Geoff, Feast showing,
Yeah.
is it impressive to you?
Absolutely. I think Mana and MMA are the big names, but then even Sort of with his DreamHack run, but also his recent departure from Korea where he was training, makes him a contender in that group in terms of like on paper who people thought would advance. And Feast has always been a really good player, but hasn't quite gotten the big stage results that put him on the map as like truly one of the favorites, I would say. For us more like international fans, inside the European scene, he's like regarded as top 3 or probably not 3, but probably top 5 Protoss in Europe. He's really high up there. But having watched all the games, I'll tell you, his win over MMA in particular was very impressive.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to see him advance number 1 out of that group because I thought that's the story that WCS is really championing, and I'm really happy to see not necessarily unknown players, but players that aren't the big dogs getting that name for themselves, even with these smaller round of 32 wins.
Is Mana taking third in that group a player that for a while there was kind of the talk of StarCraft 2 after his big tournament wins? Is that a surprise to you?
I think it's a surprise, but it's also it speaks volumes to the level of play in Europe. Sort of and Feast are all players that can beat Mana on a good day, but Mana's the guy that's won major tournaments, whereas those 2 guys simply have not. So I think that is a really big deal. But I think part of what kind of weighs in for me on this is that there's 2 different MMAs. There's the MMA that maybe at home is just not really giving a shit and playing as much, and then he's like still pretty damn good, but not a tournament winner. And then there's the MMA that lost his first round in that WCS group and then really fucking turned it on. His games against Mana were brutal. I felt bad for Mana because it felt like Mana was a lamb tossed into that Velociraptor pen in Jurassic Park 1. Like there was just no chance it was going to get diced up.
Brutal. Well, right after Rod, you are going to speak. I'll let you speak.
Yeah, so I spoke to Feast earlier today for an interview for Game Center, and he told me that he tried to proxy, 2 of the 3 games out of MMA because he felt that would be, kind of the best play for him, and MMA's transition to playing on Europe. And then versus Mana, he expected it to go long games, actually. He was expecting macro games with Mana, but he didn't realize that Mana was going to push him so hard, and that kind of threw him off on what he was going to do and made him play more defensive. But he said he was just able to kind of squeak it out in the end. So the games that versus Mana, he didn't really expect them to happen that way at all.
When will that interview be up, Rod, so people can check that out? Is that
probably
tonight?
Probably later tonight or tomorrow. I'll tweet it out.
He'll tweet it out. All right. Well, right after...
Well, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say right after Group H finished, the round of 16 was announced.
Well, then, right before you do that, the other big
that's
group
why.
during the week was everyone looking at Stefano and
That's
Grubby
true,
going
yeah.
at it. And then Baby Knight just signed Navi, says, no way, I'm going to win the group. Beats both of them. And Rui looks like a hero. While Grubby and Stefano had to battle it out to see who would get the final spot. And Stefano did win.
If I remember correctly, the Grubby Stefano matches were really, really entertaining as well. If you haven't checked that out yet, in the round of 32, definitely go do that for WCS EU. But I'm not too surprised to see those names. Baby Knight's kind of a player that's been on the rise lately in tournaments, and everyone's kind of saying how good of a player he is, and I'm not too surprised about that. Stefano's back in Paris, right, Geoff? So he wasn't playing from Korea? Okay.
He has connectivity issues in Paris, though, so there's a chance he might be moving around. Like, we actually have a house for our LoL guys in Germany, but there's, it's packed full of LoL players, so...
It's also Germany,
well, Germany's better than France, I guess, for his connection, so...
That's true. That's true.
We're just trying to put him in a place where he can play, but him and Thorzen getting the same group is a little bit of a heartbreaker, because...
Yeah, so let's take a look at the round of 16 groups here. Group A, TLO, Strelok, MMA, 4GG. Pretty stacked group, I think. MMA, 4GG are definitely MMA. I don't know if 4GG is the sure name to get out of there. What do you guys think? And we'll kind of throw this at Geoff more as the pro player here.
You know what? I've discounted TLO all along the way.
And that's what I was about to do.
So, and I think everyone else would. It's at this point in time that I have to just blindly assume that TLO is somehow miraculously going to make it out of that group. I look at MMA, I look at 4GG, and even Strelok. Strelok has a sick mech TVZ, and I'm just like, I don't know how TLO can do it. You know what? Actually, maybe it's because I doubt him that he makes it out. So fuck it. TLO's going to get stomped. He's going to get murdered up and down. The easy assumption here is that the two Koreans are going to make it out. If it weren't for the fact that it's TVT, I would give Strelok more credit, but I think MMA and 4GG should pull out ahead anyways, and obviously TLO at the bottom not winning a single game because he's just not as good as they are.
Moving along, Group B, Vortex, Baby Knight, Naniwal, Happy. Obviously a very European group there with no Koreans in it, so I think that'll be super entertaining. Naniwal probably the favorite to get out of there. Baby Knight as well. Of course, he just won his group with Stefano and Grubby in it earlier last week, or maybe this week. So he'll be a big name there. Group C, Luzfran, Nurchio, MVP, Sase. That's probably the one group I think that I'm most... Well, I don't know. Group D is actually pretty... These are all round of 16. For,
C is above it, though. That's
you think?
Like,
just because of the
C
hype
is
behind
definitely-
Luzfran?
MVP, one of the biggest
MVP.
winners in the history. Sase, one of the fan favorites that's like expected to win a tournament someday.
His PVT
Lucifron-
is really strong, is it not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so he
his
could definitely
everything's
make it
strong.
out of there.
Lucifron, Nurchio, I mean, Nurchio is a DreamHack champion. He's a big tournament winner. Lucifron has been wildly considered like one of the best Terrans, but he has yet to win that big tournament. So that group is insane. It's just ridiculously how high skilled that group is.
Yeah. Group D, Feast, Amaga, Thorzane, Stefano. I got to say, for a tournament that maybe at the start had some rough bumps, as we were discussing earlier, the round of 16 for WCS Europe is fucking stacked, and it's going to be a ton of fun to watch those games, which, as a tournament, I think that's been the one thing that has kind of kept this tournament in everyone's mind, is the games have been incredible, especially over in WCS Europe. They have had some awesome, awesome matches, and I don't think the round of 16 is going to disappoint in that way either.
No, I mean, the games have been incredible, and I think that's something that we all could count on. I think that's really nice. But I think you got to give credit where credit's due as well. Like IEM, or I guess, Turtle was taking a lot of heat for kind of shit production at the beginning.
Yeah.
They've stepped it up. I think Colaris and Todd formed a really nice casting duo. They did a really good job of kind of coming together and finding out their strengths and then performing at that stage. And with Apollo coming in and Red Eye hosting for the round of 16, my only hope, and I'm sure this is what that means, is that they step it up again. I would really be sad if it was just two guys at that same desk with the same screens behind. I'd love it if Red Eye was... I mean, I know I'm going to be happy with that, so... Yeah, it's announced. It was on Twitter and stuff.
Oh, okay. Whew. You said Apollo, and I was like, Geoff,
No, they said
I don't
it.
think that was public.
No, they tweeted it.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad the huge surprise that Apollo is casting WCS Europe is out.
Yeah.
for
Well,
everyone.
regardless, it's good. It's good. I
It's
will
good.
say,
Yeah,
I
no,
think
it is.
Todd and Colaris had a rough start, but they have definitely, over time, become a pretty awesome casting pair to listen to. They definitely have a a shtick kind of between the two of them, and it's very entertaining. So good job to both of those guys, who were actually on State of the Game last week, and I think Klaris might be on next week. We'll have to look forward with that though. But let's, Genna, I feel like I've just neglected you all show long, so.
Well, in her
Not
defense, she's
really.
neglecting us too by watching. The whole time.
Okay, hold on.
Too old, Huck. I mean, you know.
Let's go ahead and cut to Genna Bain with the report from the WCS America as Crank
Decided
2.0's.
that it was going to be a great idea to, proxy 2-gate, and well, it didn't work out too well for Huck. And Crank throughout the game decided it was okay to proxy again. So Crank had very weak defense, but it worked out in his favor.
There you go. Sideline report of Genna Bain. Thank you very much. Let's talk about Shoutcraft America, which had its debut over the weekend. And I'll just kind of throw this to you in a very broad, general way. How'd the weekend go, and what needs to be changed from your perspective moving forward?
Well, the weekend went pretty well, considering we had some severe technical issues, partially Twitch, partially, setup in general. Twitch found out that it was basically a bottleneck connection with our data trying to get to them. So it wasn't our ISP, it wasn't technically them, but we found a happy medium. And after that, everything kind of smoothed out. 40,000 at one point viewers across all foreign language streams. We have, I think, 5 foreign language streams. So, that was pretty successful. I was really happy to see so many foreigners tuning in to watch an exclusively American event. So that was amazing.
Sure.
But, there are, I imagine, a lot of skeptics out there who, would say that the only reason people tuned in is because they are unhappy with the way that WCS NA has been run. And I'm hoping that that's not entirely the case. I'm sure that some people tune in for curiosity. Some hopefully do tune in to see the top 16 Grandmasters, compete against each other for, well, a lot of my money. But I'm hoping so anyway. It's just, for me, I really want to bring some more legitimacy to the North American ladder. The only way we're going to close the gap, the skill gap between us, EU, and Korea is to really make our own ladder relevant, bring that skill back to the North American ladder. So, I'm pretty excited that people are taking to it so well. Obviously, I couldn't do it without the publicity that my husband, Total Biscuit, brings to to everything.
I think that might be my next question, to jump on the other line of the skepticism out there. How much, in your opinion, or maybe just answering the statement, people tuned in to, and I'm not saying this is a statement, people tuned in to Shoutcraft America because Husky and Total Biscuit, 2 huge YouTube personalities with
He's
a
quoting
huge
the
fan
Good
base.
Studio.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
I completely expected. I watched The Good Studio.
As you all should.
Oh.
That's my endorsement, maybe not Jenna's.
I do not endorse that message. I fucking love it.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, so the statement was, for those that don't know, that people tuned in due to Huskies and Total Biscuit's audience. And I just wanted to get kind of maybe Camp Shoutcraft America, or even your own statement in response to that.
Well, to begin, we had foreign language streams. People tuned in all across the world to these foreign language streams because, the native language might not be English. And those streams did not feature Total Biscuit and Husky. They featured other casters. So there's one point. Second point, and my husband might kill me for this, but he is not what is considered, I guess, the highest skilled caster in the game. Sure, he has personality.
You mean in terms of knowledge?
Yeah, exactly. Although he has made it plat this season, which, considering getting out of Gold League, that is something to, that is an achievement. I'm not going to say that, him playing Terran and cheesing everyone was the right way to go about it. Just kidding. But I'm just thinking that he is improving, sure. And of course, his profile as far as YouTube is concerned and the amount of events that he does within the gaming community, sure, that does, play a part of it. But in the end, this is all about the players. The reason I made the tournament is because of the players. It's to actually give these top 16 GM, the people who are actually fighting for this every season who didn't go to the Korean ladder or to the EU ladder, it's to celebrate them. This is why there are no cameras for the casters. There is no camera for John. There is no camera for Husky. There are face-offs between each of the players before each match. And it's to really just put the focus on the player. It's like, how many times have we seen instances, for example, DreamHack, TLO, sure, I understand that he hasn't been playing his best, in a while. We haven't really seen, as far as like,
crazy good, man.
He's crazy good at DreamHack. Are you kidding? That was an amazing run. But the thing is that you didn't hear so much about that, but you could hear all about Artosis actually acknowledging a pylon.
Oh, I see.
Wow, that was amazing. But, he's a caster. Without players, you don't have a game. Without players, you don't have an event. Without casters, sure, people could still watch, a game. They might not have someone to exactly tell them the story, the whole story, but it's still watchable. So, for me, the players are the most important part. And
Jen, are you telling me that you could have the best players in the world play in one of the most prestigious leagues with really bad commentators, and people would still watch and listen?
They are.
Jenna, that's never happened before.
No, it's never happened before. Pro League has never happened before. Shoutcraft has never happened before. I'm just saying, it doesn't take, Tastosis commentating an event to make it one of the best events. A caster is just a caster. They tell a story. If you don't have good games, you don't have an event. Nobody's going to watch an event that has really crappy games. It's like, oh, great, this is awesome, this is amazing.
Genna, I don't know what you're talking about, but I watched a whole lot of World of Tanks past week. I know all you guys did too, so that is a bullshit statement. Don't give me that.
Rod, that was more the what the fuck factor.
They made that tournament for you too, did they, Rod? They really brought those tanks out for me. It made it real.
They brought them tanks to me. I couldn't do without Nick and Dan, my homies. Genna, how can you say that about such good guys like that? Talking about them tanks blowing shit up. That was good to me. So, can't say commentators don't make the game.
Well, one of the things I do take away from what she said that I think is really important to note is that I think leagues should innovate and find ways to make it much more apparent that there's players attending the tournament and they're more than just results or performance. And I really like the idea of, certainly there's not a whole lot you can do there, but Shoutcast is doing a good job of trying to drive the type of interview they're doing. The smack talk thing is kind of a funny opportunity for a little bit more personality to come out. So I do appreciate that. But more as a broad message to everyone. You're referencing DreamHack, but I thought DreamHack did a pretty okay job with both a before and after interview with the players. I would have liked for more stuff to come out too, some of that filler content to perhaps involve some of the local players, which they did do as well, but with that rabbit video. But I guess even more so during the actual event itself. And then I would like it if beyond DreamHack, it was like an MLG and an ESL, or excuse me, IEM kind of thing where they did more of that too. And this is something that's been circling around for a while, but I'm glad that Shoutcast is putting it on Boom, that it's something that we should do and that it can be done.
Rod?
I don't think Husky and Total Biscuit doing casting would have been any different if Geoff and Apollo was casting, or Dan and whoever Wolf was casting, or Caldor was casting. I think it all would have been generally the same. I know Total Biscuit and
in terms
Husky
of
are
audience,
YouTube.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're huge personalities, but there are other casters that are, you could say, bigger StarCraft-centric personalities because they've been in the StarCraft, maybe competitive scene longer, so that it all balances each other out. I don't think that it would have made any real difference, and that people tuned in because of the players and because it was an American-only tournament. That's the majority of the reason people watched, not for Total Biscuit and Husky.
Yeah, the language I've been using lately to describe this, because I agree with you, Rod, is I think, in my opinion, there's this thing called tier of casters. And I think for one reason or another, as long as you are that tier of a caster that attracts X amount of people, you could interchangeably rotate other casters in that same role. And of course, they're going to change the flavor of the tournament. They're going to add this or that. But for the most part, if I'm a viewer, I'm going to look at that tournament and say, oh, I'm going to watch that because they have top-tier casting. I mean, excuse me, they probably won't say that. They'll probably watch it, but that'll be something they think of. But it only becomes a storyline, in my opinion, when a tournament that's really, really big has like a step down or even 2 steps down in terms of tier of casting. And then it's like that becomes the storyline where people are like, this person is horrible. They don't know what they're saying. They're ruining the experience. But even then, I bet tournaments don't lose that much viewership because even that storyline might drive people to it. Like, I want to see how terrible this person actually is.
Hey, well, Geoff, I haven't lost you there because I know full well that EGTL was still last in Pro League. So anything else that I could have thought about Pro League, I am right there with you in what the main storyline is going on.
I don't get it.
Because, they wouldn't be the main story because of other things that are happening in Pro League. I'm just saying, I'm right there with you with what's really happening. I'm like really paying attention.
Is this thing on? Is the mic working?
What happened?
I don't know what. Rod, I don't know where you're going with this. So.
No, that was it.
Okay, that was it.
Yeah.
Fucking Rod. So yeah, when is the next? That was really weird. When is the next Shoutcraft America date for people to tune in, Genna?
That would be this Saturday on the 11th, and we should, with luck, be having, because this is obviously all about the casters, according to the Good Studio, and they will, of course, have no bigger case than the fact that we will probably have day 9 casting on Saturday.
You guys sold out. Okay.
Yeah.
See, look at that.
And
Jenna's sold out.
You guys used your back prize
that
pool then, huh?
I do want to bring up is that none of the casters are actually paid for this event at all. None of
We're
them.
teasing.
So
That should be advertised, though, yeah.
Should be.
just, an FYI, we did not shell out bajillions of dollars of potential prize pool money to have casters help us with this endeavor. It's very much, as an American, I decided to do this, kind of like by Americans for Americans, and, American casters who are, stepping up and helping us out with this event, obviously we're terribly, terribly grateful that people are embracing it as much as they are. But yeah, this is not an event about the casters. If it was, then I don't know, we'd probably just have a caster tournament and get it over with.
Hey, Genna, when you say buy Americans for Americans, do you mean to buy Americans for Americans?
God damn it, Rod. God damn it, Rod. By the way, can I just say, let's talk about Rod's failures. I loved when you guys were having some technical difficulties last week on Live on 3, and we saw that side of Wheat just scream. Did you happen to see this, Geoff?
No.
You should go tune in if there's a VOD of it, because it is literally Wheat just exploding, I guess, on the show and just screaming at the top of his lungs at Slasher for being a fucking idiot. It was one of the best moments on Live on 3 I've seen in recent history, yes. And it had to do with, like, DDoS and Skype and all that, so it was pretty funny. Relevance. That's my throw, too. It's my throw, too. Where do we go from here? Genna, on the topic of beating dead horses, this past weekend you guys had some... And Geoff, I guess this is also relevant to you as well. Since since an EG player was involved into Muslim.
Oh, we know where this is going.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend too long on this because it has been, like I said, beaten already to death. But MLG had a admin terminated, which I love their verbiage, and I think a lot of people did as well.
You've been terminated.
Yeah, that was a good choice of words there.
Terminated.
Yeah.
MLG
There's
admin,
room for that.
come with me if you want to live.
I know that you released a statement on Team Liquid about it, but is there anything you either want to restate or just say? Because I know a lot of people were probably tuning in for this discussion.
I mean, most of what I had to say about the situation was said in my blog. I know that MLG are, they're trying to work with me now to establish what can be done better communication-wise between, events and the actual players. And problem really kind of lies with a disconnect between events and the actual teams. I understand why some event organizers don't understand that the team is basically the conduit for all relevant information. If the team doesn't know something, then a lot of times the player doesn't know something. Communicating directly with the players is good, sure, but why not both? Why not both?
It's very, very true. Geoff, do you want to comment on it at all?
No, I mean, I think she handled it really well, and I think it was another unfortunate situation, but I think everyone came away from it pretty okay. Like Genna said, she's going to work with MLG in the future to try and iron that thing out, and the guy that kind of did end up having a negative impact on Maya was fired. I mean, it doesn't get much more severe than that. MLG seems to be taking it pretty serious. It's unfortunate that someone had to lose their job over that, but fortunately, it's not like a living wage salaried job. It was an online ref. Maybe he goes to an MLG or something like that. So, not to downplay that. That's kind of weird. Now there's someone out there that just hates the fuck out of me. He's like, that job was everything to me. Anyway, so moving forward, I guess it just should be very obvious that when a tournament is having trouble like this, I would like to see them redouble their efforts to make sure that nothing happens. And if something does bad happen, that they come down on it like a ton of bricks, not just kind of casually like leave a Skype message on someone. Oh, I'm sorry, I told you the wrong time. It's actually like way earlier, and then forfeit that person when they don't show up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They should have been like calling the consulate, the British consulate that would send in fucking Queensguard to find John and be like, John, we've got a message from Britain for you. He's like, what's this? I mean, then they go into it that way, but to just leave a Skype message is insanely low service.
To give some comparison, MLG fires a referee for giving a wrong time to a player. ESEA has not fired the coder that put malware on your computer to make a bunch of money.
I thought
Give
you were.
that guy a promotion.
I thought you were
What
going
do
to go
you
elsewhere
think?
with
That's the
that.
smartest thing they've ever done. Like, they just now found out that this guy was farming money on people. Like,
God.
he's been moved to Black Ops for ESEA. He's gonna find ways to email you Trojans that just farm bitcoins on your computer. Like, ESEA. What did Craig Levine say about that? Did
That
he
was
ever
just so weird too to have Craig on live on 3 a week prior. Then it was almost. It wasn't even a full week. It was just a couple days to have this news come out. I remember seeing it. I saw the story break on r/games. I don't know if that was the original place where it broke. I think it might have just been the ESEA forums, but.
I wouldn't even be pissed though. Like, does it slow down your computer a lot? Is that what it does?
It can actually damage your hardware.
Oh, well, then I'd be pissed.
Yeah,
It has damaged.
it has damaged hardware.
Well, I'd be super pissed.
Yeah.
Fucking ESEA. But is that the next stage of gaming? Is that we have to find out about leagues like finding ways to farm us all as like unaware
Hey,
Bitcoin?
look, Geoff, you're all about tournaments innovating, man. I mean, we got to make some money, Geoff.
MLG's like, guys, great news. Next MLG, we're hosting it on the fucking moon. We're flying everyone out. Only top 16, though, but we'll make accommodations. We found new sponsors. Thank you all for downloading that new website we just made.
Well, Sundance did tweet a new website today, so we'll see, Geoff. We'll see.
That's good.
It is
every
good.
time MLG releases a new website, I go, sick. Now let's see what the lowest standard for websites are.
Wow.
You know what?
You know,
Normally
it's
I feel like I'm
warranted.
just talking shit,
It's
but
warranted.
someone out there tell me I'm wrong.
No, it's warranted.
Name a website that's worse than the MLG websites.
ESL.
got
Oh,
it
we
first.
got you.
Wow. That ESL website is older than the
Hold
hill.
on. Let's specify which ESL website are we talking about, because there's about 40 domains that they
You
own.
guys both said the same one at the same time, though. That's so awesome. Name a shitty ESL. Fuck yeah, that's way worse.
Oh god.
I
To be
like
fair,
that when you click
the
on the
other-
ESL website, dust actually shoots off.
To be fair to these two, where are the other websites, which don't even exist really? They're not shitty. They're just
And
don't.
that'll be their
They're not
argument. Too.
there.
It's like, you know what? It may be a shitty website, but at least we have one. You know what I'm saying? You don't understand that, Rod? Because you haven't tried to sign up on a tournament through the MLG website, man. It's like you've got a
That is-
Doritos ad shooting you in the face over here. This starts like trying to get you into a seizure. Then you click this, and it's like, what's your password? You're like checking to see if you're logged in, and you are, and you're like, is there another password? And then it's like,
Yeah.
you're not even logged in, but you are logged in.
You know, I
So you have to
feel
reset password.
I feel a little bad because once upon a time I was given a code to watch a certain stream in HD, and I didn't know where to enter it for about an hour, and I had to message them to figure this out. So
It'll get better, I hope. I really do.
It gets better. Really?
It gets better. You know that campaign that should
That's
be
what I'm
used for
saying.
this?
Is that what this is? Emoji
No.
what is
website?
this? This
Yes,
show's just become
Sure.
like, let's shit on all the things, man. Let's.
Let me talk about something positive though, because this is how fucking nice EG actually is. Like, so when the MLG first started having their qualifiers that you had to sign up for, at first EG was like, "Hey, here's the link, guys. Go sign up. You know, get yourself registered and start playing." When like half our players came back to management, and were like, "I don't understand what's going on," and they're like, "Oh, it's okay. We'll do it for you." And then they started doing it for us. So they handle all that for us now. EG signs us up because we don't know how to handle the website. But I'll tell you the breaking point for me before I messaged Evoli, our player manager, was when I was trying to click on the link to change my password, and a moving advertisement kept getting in the way of my like. I actually, because I'm not actually very tech savvy, so I was kind of looking around like, it's like, who's doing it with the laser, like the mouse that's not plugged in? And no, the advertisement fucking tracked me on around the screen, and then I just fucking closed the window, messaged Cody, and said, "You got to do it now. I can't do it." And then he did it. Oh, did we drop our stream?
No, not at all.
Oh yeah, team websites. Dot good game.
Yeah.
I love it. I do. Keep it forward, going forward, pushing the web,
Pushing the web.
esports.
All right. Where are we going from here? Let's see.
By the way, if we didn't mention it since we're all about the players, Puck won that group with Minigun, and those are the two players that are going to be going on.
Oh yeah.
Next two groups this weekend.
There you go. So yeah, I think there's issues on the stream. If you're having issues, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but refresh, you can't see me if you're having issues, but make sure that's aware in the chat, mods. Let's move on to something that I want to talk about, and this might be the last topic of the show, but hopefully we'll spend some time here.
Wait a minute, you missed one
What's that?
big thing.
What's that?
The group of death.
And what?
WCS, I guess is what you're saying.
Group B?
Yeah. Best group StarCraft 2 history.
Yeah, but on the show last week on Thursday, that was already talked about.
Oh, it already happened.
Yeah, it already happened.
Okay.
Sorry, Rod.
It's okay.
You can't get your cred here by talking about Group B. All right, so this is something I've kind of been wanting to talk about all week, and we'll start with, as Geoff stated earlier, most things do actually involve him. So there was a tweet from you discussing what NASL's plans are for 2013, and Mr. Bitter responded to you saying that there might or may be information. What was the exact wording? Do you remember? As soon as
They
next
were
week?
alluding to an announcement this week. They said next week, but that was last week, so I assume it's this week.
Okay.
But
Now
it's now Thursday.
let's take kind of a look, and I've kind of put all these together at the news the events going on at NASL. Then I want to kind of get some speculation from everyone on the show. So the Pulse was last aired almost 2 weeks ago after a pretty consistent debut in January. This was the show that obviously ripped into MLG and kind of WCS America in general, and that was the last Pulse episode. I believe it was aired on the 25th of April.
They've been terminated.
They got terminated by MLG. Bitter was actually on Fnatic's talk show, The Panel, a show that, as far as I could tell by searching on the internet, that it hasn't really done anything in quite some time. So I'm not sure.
Had 2 episodes.
Do what?
It's had 2 episodes.
2 episodes. One of them, the last, I think episode 2 was done in January. So
It's an annual show, yes.
It's an annual show. Okay.
Once a year, Fnatic puts on a show.
Okay, so it must be a sponsor obligation. So
A pretty loose one.
Clutch was promoting his highlight reel on Facebook not too long ago, as well as Lauren Elise, who I think she announced that she was a free agent, or maybe that was just a good show telling me that. I'm unsure, but she also has a highlight reel out there. Rotterdam recently flew to New York City for a single day on his own dime as well as donations from his stream to cast WCSNA. Rod, you mentioned to me earlier that screams dedication. To me, it screams almost desperation to cast something StarCraft 2. Like, it's also dedication, but why does a guy have to fly himself to New York to cast StarCraft 2 when you have a studio a couple miles down the road? You know what I'm saying? We'll continue on. The last original content aired was Clutch playing World of Tanks on the 25th of April. Of course, they did have the DreamHack event on the weekend of the 30th. So this is kind of where it stops. What is NASL doing? What have you guys heard? I've heard a couple rumors. I'll let you guys go ahead and go first. And Genna, we'll just start with you since you have kind of been misrepresented, or not but underrepresented in the show due to the host being caught off guard by recent news. So what's going on with NASL?
Well, there is. I want to say that what I'm thinking is that there's a lot of pushback right now from Blizzard to allow them to organize specific things. Obviously, dodging all of the WCS events is a pretty big thing. Even trying to get a tournament license for Shoutcraft was, I wouldn't say massively difficult, but it was challenging to actually schedule everything around WCS events. And because of the prize pool being what it is, it's okay if I run over WCS EU. It's not okay if I run over WCS NA. For some of the events that NASL have put on in the past, I would assume, considering prize pool, that they probably aren't allowed to run over either one. So I think that, even just having the time to schedule events in general, that is probably hurting them, not being able to release some sort of tournament schedule that, lets everyone know, hey, we're still here, we're still relevant, we're doing things in the scene. So I think that, might be a bit of a factor. As far as, the actual staff itself, I haven't really heard a whole lot. I remember tweeting out saying that TB did a horrible job in production for Shoutcraft and I should have just farmed this out to NASL. And they tweeted back saying, we're always here if you need us. So, I don't think they would make that offer if they were, leaving so quickly, let's put it that way. But it's kind of tough to call with so many people moving in so many different directions. It almost makes me feel like someone at Blizzard gave them massive pushback, and they're basically just saying, "Okay, we're leaving StarCraft. Then we'll go where we're wanted."
All right, Rod.
I talked to Russell Pfister, the CEO of Hero Level and NASL, and the only comment that he gave me, and one person on the show will love it, is we have no comment about anything to announce this week. Geoff is just being Geoff.
What? Mr. Bitter was just being Geoff. What the fuck?
So that is the only statement
Really?
that I have
Interesting.
out of NASL, which is nothing, and that it's just
Well, what did you
that's all
ask him? Did you say Jeff's tweet? What do you have a comment about Jeff's tweet? Is that what you said?
I was asking, do they have plans to be announcing what they are doing?
And this was earlier today?
This was yesterday, Monday.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would assume under speculation and just everything that's going on, that Dota 2 would be the most likely thing and place of content for them to go in. You have everything that Genna just mentioned with WCS NA and Europe. MLG is not going to give them space to do anything. They have taken up pretty much all the times during the week. NASL had an online league structure that needed to be playing during the week. That's pretty much the same structure that WCS is using. They no longer can do that. Dota 2 is the game that needs a league. The community that's wanted it. They've already reached out to NASL before. You have all these personalities that are doing content and teasing it, and Russell's teasing it on Twitter all the time. I have to believe that Dota 2 is the main place of content that they're going to go. And then secondly, I mean, you mentioned World of Tanks. I have no idea, but they paid GSL enough money that Nick and Dan are casting it over there. Why would they not do the same over here? Maybe they put it out to both MLG and NASL, and they asked which one would want to take it. I mean, I also don't know.
A little bit prickled.
Seems plausible, like it could happen. World of Tanks was originally partnered with IPL, one of the final events was actually IPL doing something with World of Tanks at South by Southwest, but that no longer is here. So they have to go somewhere, and the only two places left are MLG and NASL. Maybe MLG are just full with Call of Duty and StarCraft 2, and then who knows what's happening even there between League and Dota and whatnot. So NASL is in a very precarious position right now. With the contracts that MLG and ESL have, they don't really have a place to do anything, unfortunately. No competition. Not competition related, at least, it feels like.
Well, I think it's weird to hear that he said Geoff just being Geoff, because my tweet was that I said not hearing anything from them is worrying, and then Mr. Bitter tweeted back at me saying that
was Ben's tweet.
In the next week they will have an announcement, which is what I did, the announcement of an announcement. So a little bit weird that Russ was saying that. But I guess what I would say is there's actually kind of a fun trail of breadcrumbs that now I have the answer that are out and about that I think people should look closer into, because the answer, in a weird, like, super nerdy kind of way, I always wanted to be that wizard in a story, and now I get to be it. People could actually figure out what the next step is. There's the pieces in place. And all you have to do is follow the Twitters of everybody and see what they're saying. Things like, recently, Rotterdam said that he would never not commentate StarCraft 2. Things like Mr. Bitter not necessarily saying that. Things like certain investment groups that back both NASL and other gaming companies now. That's it. Things you should look at. But supposedly they're going to talk about it this week, and it's Thursday, so I'm kind of excited to hear about that. But just know that what I have heard is not good if you're a StarCraft 2 fan. And I'd love to hear that I'm wrong. Like I said, I'm not in on their meetings. I'm not sitting there with their decisions. So maybe the part that I heard is the small part and the big part is StarCraft 2. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that the parts that have come out are very disconcerting. And I would love to be made a fool. I would love NASL to come out and be like, we tricked you, Geoff. It turns out we're starting the Universal Star League. It's going to take place everywhere. And like, it's this gigantic deal. I'd love to be fucking as wrong as I could possibly be on it. But the problem is I rarely am on these kind of things. As much as people like to give me shit, I usually actually know what's going on.
I think I've kind of been hearing the same thing that that Geoff's been hearing behind the scenes. I think it, unless I'm just dead wrong and my quote unquote sources are just complete liars, I do not. I will not be surprised if NASL does something with another game that is not a MOBA, that is not StarCraft 2, that we have seen pop up recently in other leagues out there, that a certain caster pair has casted. I think you can understand what I'm trying to say here without saying it. And it would be really weird to see that. But it's also interesting because if you take a look at kind of the NASL cast, Bitter's been pretty vocal. He still does his StarCraft 2 stuff. Rotterdam as well. Greytorp's been kind of silent from what I can tell. He hasn't really said anything. And if he was the one to cast something else that's not StarCraft 2, I would not be surprised. But I don't know who else on staff, aside from maybe Clutch, could cast another game. I'm trying to think who else could do it, but I don't think Rotterdam. I mean, he's already said that he wouldn't cast another game. That was a tweet, right, Geoff?
I can't remember where I heard it, but I'm sure he would back that up and tell you himself, because he seemed, wherever I heard it, it's not like I heard it through someone else. I heard him say it. I think it was either on his stream or
It was on
Twitter.
Twitter, I think,
Yeah.
because I saw that too.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, or if I'm correct, there was also some tweets from Ben today, chatting up one Paul Redeye Chaloner. I can't say his last name. I'm sorry, Paul.
It's Chalunar.
Chalunar.
Yeah. Chalunar.
Someone who I believe has been casting the game as well over in Europe. So I don't know if that's what that conversation is. This is all pretty
Greytorp's
wild
listening to
speculation.
that rat bastard. He has all the secrets. He says pro Candy Crush. If that's a game, then I'm ashamed that he knows to name it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I got my startings with casting at NASL for StarCraft 2 in particular, but really in general, and I really, the sad thing is just like IPL, I feel like they were on the up and up. I think the Pulse is a great production. I think the group of people they have there are finally hitting their stride. WCS comes out, and I'm hard pressed to believe that is just this all-killing blow to the head that just one-shotted them. And if that is the case, then that fucking sucks. That's terrible. But I just wish, I don't know. And like I said, I'm not in the meeting, so I'm just going to speak as the outsider looking in. I wish there was more fighting spirit from NASL to be like, you know what? We'll find a way. We'll do something. Because NASL to me is intrinsic with StarCraft 2. Like that's what they do. They dabbled in other games. Did you guys know that they used to have, what is that third MOBA? Han?
Han, yeah.
They used to do Han. You guys ever remember
They
that?
did that in a final, didn't they? At season 2?
Nobody.
Hope I remember that.
Nobody remembers
They
that.
did Tribes as well.
Nobody.
For the characters, I remember Han.
You know what I remember from Han? The poor company that made it was called S2. So I thought it was just StarCraft 2. Like
S2 had a good lineage before that with
And
Savage
Heroes
and whatnot.
War.
But
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Like nobody remembers that. We remember the amazing performances they've given. The Toronto show that was absolutely incredible.
yeah.
Really interesting videos. We saw pro gamers push dirt around with gigantic mechanized vehicles. Like that's never going to happen again. That'll never happen again.
I will say that I believe, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but Ben and Roddy have both been contracted to cast the round of 8 and on for WCSNA
Yes,
in America.
the two-
That's been announced. So they're not, at least they're not done with StarCraft 2 in that regards.
No. And I put on my tinfoil hat on Inside the Game. And
Yeah.
I'll do. I think if NASL were to go in the direction of another game, I feel like Bitter has a 50-50 chance to either stay behind and become like a Kevin Naki for NASL, where he just kind of manages everything that's like gaming based for them. He's not like the producer, but he's the gaming guy. Or he follows Rotterdam, and the two of them get hired on as the third and fourth caster for MLG, in-house commentators. That's my tinfoil hat, though. That's my crazy theory. And then Clutch and the rest of NASL becomes like North American Star League for a game that is yet to be named.
Geoff's a wizard.
Someday I'll be a wizard, Gemma. Someday.
It would be a little weird, though, to hire Ben and Rod. Well, probably more specifically Ben, after he gave MLG that thrashing on the Pulse. But maybe it was a little bit warranted, so maybe they could like let that kind of slide. But it's not a far off assumption, Geoff. I would tend to agree.
I think they're just kind of figuring out what they want to do, because they have hero level, which is not a new thing, but it's, you know, it's the new name for the production of content that they want to produce, which is leagues and shows and pieces and just everything. And they're probably reevaluating like the entire business right now.
Well, they've been doing that since, I would assume, January, since they were trying to figure it out then, you know? Like, what have we seen from... And we talked about this, I think, the last time Geoff was on. NASL hasn't done anything as a league except for talk shows since last season.
Yeah, which was not the plan.
Yeah, that definitely... You don't... Yeah, exactly. You don't go in... And this is once again repeating what Geoff said. You don't go into a brand new year where StarCraft 2 is blowing up once again with Heart of the Swarm and not have like a plan, you know?
Yep.
So
I'm kind of surprised, Rod. I'm surprised. Like, this could be IPL 2, and you don't...
you know, I
I'm not
can't say
trying
I
to
didn't
hate
set
it.
him up for it, Geoff.
No, because IPL was owned by another organization. They had events that they were scheduled to be happening that were shut down, while NASL had plans for the next event. It's not like there were qualifiers that went through and teams that were going and
just
players that were...
Imagine
that
the
were there.
sensationalism you could talk about, though. Like, NASL moving to another game, StarCraft 2 dying, WCS a failure, North American scene moving to where the money is. Like, this is ripe for Rod. This is like... I am looking at a field of little
I think
curly, red-headed...
Rakaka might have some good
Just waiting for you to
information.
shuck it. You got to shuck the shit out of that field, man.
He's doing your
You know what I'm
job for you, Rod.
Rod.
Gosh.
Rod, I'm going to
What are
become
you
your
doing?
boss. That's what I'm gonna give me that GameSpot link. No one's been your boss yet. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna sick you on these storylines.
True. Goddamn
okay, Geoff.
storylines.
You can't give
That's
Rod
the buzzword
stories
now.
because in the history, if we go back about half a year, Rod, who gave you the biggest story of esports in the past? Oh, I don't know, 2-3 years, and who didn't report on it? Who didn't believe me?
I don't know who gave me stories.
Guys,
'cause I don't reveal sources, so I don't know.
I think it's time to all rip off our Thorn mask and reveal that Rod is still on esports heaven.
How long you've had stories brought to you? Okay.
Geoff, I love you. Please don't.
Oh God. Yeah, we'll see what NASL announces. Hopefully, I mean, Ben, like I showed on the show, said this week, but it's Thursday. It's 7 p.m. I guess it's still 5 o'clock, so maybe it can come out today or maybe tomorrow.
You know what it is, Geoff? You know what it is, Geoff? I have not so much interest because I don't think they have any idea what they're doing right now. So I think they're still...
I think that's a little bit of a discredit to NASL. I think they have a very good idea what they're doing right
Yeah,
now.
I think it's already been moved. I'm telling you, Rod. I'm sorry I did this on State of the Game, but I think this is Rod time 2013. Like this is it.
This is where you're walking around with your...
They're not. It's not truly IPL 2.0. So you're right. That was a bad example. But what it is a league potentially moving away from StarCraft 2 altogether because of WCS. That headliner at the top of GameSpot.com is going to triple or quadruple the viewership to literally dozens of people reading that at that time. Literally dozens.
Literally dozens.
Tens of people are going to tune in.
Oh, wow.
Hold on, Geoff. Let's be fair here. Like, Rod probably gets a lot of comments on there. However, none of them are actually favorable.
GameSpot is still the second most viewed gaming website on the entire internet. I don't have to say anything. It's just Geoff being Geoff. Remember?
Geoff,
It is.
Quote unquote.
To quote Russell Pfister.
This Rod used that correctly. If it was Geoff being Geoff, that would be now, not the like. I'm worried about NASL. Like I'm not known as the worry guy. I guess.
Yeah.
I'm so afraid of something. Quit being Geoff, you fucking Nancy Geoff. God.
I'm more interested in seeing what happens and then what Blizzard's response will be.
Blizzard's response. I don't think Blizzard cares. They already have
They're the ones
MLG in North
hacking
America.
stuff down left and right. Are you kidding? I mean, same thing happened in Korea. It's like Code S isn't even like technically Code S anymore. It was all, GOM actually going to Blizzard saying, oh, OGN are going to get like this agreement so they can be the only one on television and we're upset and we're sad. Help us. And then all of this started to happen all of a sudden. It's like, oh, well, WCS, let's just do this and we'll share it. We'll be a great community and let's go over to America and, kill all the rest of the little ones so we can be the big, massive force behind everything.
Shots fired.
Finally, welcome Genna to State of the Game.
Oh man, what? This has been a kind of ridiculous show.
Well, how could it not be with the way it started?
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we were covered, guys. I'm glad we were covered. Rod, I'll throw this to you. Is there anything else as the premier journalist of GameSpot.com that we need to cover?
Editor-in-chief.
Editor-in-chief at large in chief.
And CEO of all things
And
esports.
CEO of
written.
all things esports written, yeah.
Yep.
I think you got your game pretty much covered, JP.
There you go.
Did a good job.
I got my game covered, guys. Let's do...
Code A happened.
Rod.
The Challenger League for Korea has already begun.
Yeah.
There are already players that have been knocked out, including Dong Regu.
And it is pretty stacked. It's kind of like watching the Wings of Liberty Code S from like season 7 or something, but in Code A, because all the Kespa players have moved in. And by the way, we didn't mention this, but did you guys see who's playing who in the round of 8 at Code S? Roro versus Innovation. Probably the sickest fucking match to happen in a long time.
I did not see that one.
Besides Group B, like that is going to be absolutely insane. The rest of the matches they're pretty good for a round of 8 Codas. Like it's going to be definitely Codas, but Rower Innovation, the GSL winner, of course, last season, and Innovation probably the most hyped player right now in all of StarCraft 2. That'll be awesome to watch. I don't know when it airs. I think just go check Liquipedia. They probably have it there. But other than that, I think we're going to go ahead and close the show out here. So let's go around and do some shout-outs. And we'll start with Geoff.
Well, I guess I would say that it's kind of appropriate, but my first big shout-out would be to Greg IdrA Fields. Just if he ever does get a chance to listen to this, he doesn't listen to all shows, but sometimes he does. But just to put the message out there, he's like a brother to me. I love him. And I'm really, really sad that he's off the team. But I want to make it known that I wish nothing but the best for him. And I'm hoping to God we haven't seen the last of him, because he is an absolute fucking character. But more important than that, when that guy wins, I've been in the audience of an MLG when he's beating Bomber on stage. I've seen him overcome a best-of-7 Extend series with Boxer, and I know how fired up people get about his gameplay, more so than a lot of others. And I wish that someday we get to see that again, because I know that he cares and I know that he loves it, and I hope that is something that's in the cards for him in the future. For me personally, just thank you to everyone I got a lot of nice messages about this. It was really actually harder than I thought it would be to receive that news live on camera like that, because I usually take things pretty well, but it actually kind of overtook me. So I was thankful that people were able to give me, JP, good hosting for giving me a minute to take a break. Slasher for not absolutely tearing into me. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
But just thank you to the community at large. And, of course, the usual thanks as well to my team that supports me, Evil Geniuses. And for me personally, if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter, iNcontroL. But otherwise, I have no plans in the immediate future. I have not booked any casting or appearances or tournaments or anything like that, so I'll just be streaming every day. Hopefully, one thing that can be said is that our team league that Evil Geniuses is putting together will come out fairly soon, and then I'll be casting I'll be the main host of that, so you'll see me casting a lot.
Awesome.
But just thank you to everybody.
All right. Rod, some shout-outs.
Thanks for having me on the show, JP, and Geoff and Genna. It's good to be here in a non-drunken episode. I only got
so
half
true.
ambushed on this show, so now I'm at 2.5 random inane.
Look, Wheat, if you are still watching, make sure that next week on Live on 3, you ambush Slasher so we can have this trifecta.
Well, Wheat actually fucking destroyed me, as you said, so that's like a
Well,
full
oh, shit, that's
1.5.
right.
So I've gotten attacked 4 times in a week, which is great. Any of you out there that want to get into esports and you
Probably
want
means
someone,
doing your job, right?
look at someone, look at me. Geoff gets a lot of shit, but a lot of people love him. I get a lot of shit, and really no one likes me at all. So if you want to look up to anybody that could go through the shit, this is a good example. We did Live on 3 yesterday with interview with Suppy, and he talked about being the only player for the United States to advance into the round of 16, so go check that out.
Great interview. Definitely go check that out.
He is pretty worried about New York City. He thinks he might not even get into top 8. So that was a legitimate concern for him. But yeah, go check that out. And today we did talk to Feast for GameSpot's show Game Center, which is a new show that we've been testing out and doing, trying to make better each week. And that should be out probably later today or tomorrow on GameSpot.com/esports or GameCenter.com.
All right. Genna, some shout-outs?
Obviously, I have to give a shout out to my team, Axiom. My guys are doing pretty well right now. #1 spot in GSTL, at least until everyone else plays their matches this week. And doing much better than what I think most people expected out of us during our first season. Shout out to Acer for partnering with us for that. Obviously, a big thanks to my husband, Total Biscuit, for giving me the luxury to do what it is that I do and not complaining too much about it, and basically allowing me to go on these endeavors. It's like, oh, I want to put an esports team together. Okay. Oh, I want to have a $10,000 tournament with our money. Okay. It's not every guy in the world that would allow his wife to do that. So I'm really grateful that he's allowed me to do what it is I love to do. And thanks to JP for having me on, and thank the awesome Slasher, who was one of the first people who ever got me interested in esports in general. So yeah, big thank you. I am where I am today because you piqued my interest, and thanks to Geoff for, always being an awesome role model in esports. And, I'm very, very fortunate to be on a show with you at the same time.
Thank you.
All right, now it's time to watch Wheat destroy Slasher because I've been waiting for this moment all the show.
What are you talking about? Are you serious?
We're serious. We're gonna watch this, and everyone's
Why?
gonna enjoy it.
You know,
Why
watching
is
out and
everything
making sure
happening?
that
It's
they're-
nothing to do with these shows. What is wrong with them? This is bullshit.
God, Slasher, you are a fucking idiot!
Well, that's the best ending to a State of the Game ever.
Idiot! What the fuck?